Hello friends, and welcome back to our homestead. Today I'm harvesting this beautiful bee balm. Look at this. It is absolutely crawling with bees and bumblebees and a whole bunch of other insects. They absolutely love it because it's so wonderful, and we love it as well because it's beautiful in my garden, but also it's super medicinal. And this is the reason I'm going to cut some of this down today to make homemade remedies, to make medicines. That's right, the good Lord gave us this wonderful, beautiful natural medicine growing in our backyards right here, right now. So there's some that are this nice, very kind of velvety lavender color bee balm, but also there's other colors. So I will show you a crimson one. I have it in my other garden already growing over there. But today I'm going to be harvesting mostly this beautiful plant. And something else I want to point out. For some reason, during moist, humid summers, the bottom branches may start developing what looks like almost like little mildewy on it. Can you see the little white spots on the leaves? So we don't want those. Obviously, we're going to be harvesting nice and healthy and beautiful bee balm. But unfortunately, sometimes you will find that, especially those that are low to the ground. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. It has a mild, spicy smell to it. It has, if you look at it, it has a square stem. That's how you know it's in the mint family. And the leaves grow on the opposite of each other, always opposite of each other. Okay, and see how they branch out and they make more and more flowers. And like I said, they come in different colors, but this one is this nice lavender kind of lilac-y color. But there's also crimson red, much darker ones. I have to work carefully because there's so many bees. Also, for the longest time, I thought it's called bee balm because the bees love it. And yes, the bees love it, but that's not the reason why it's called bee balm. It's called bee balm because you make a balm out of it to treat bee stings. Okay, and that is the reason why it's called bee balm. So what is used on this plant? The flowers, the stems, and the leaves, the aerial parts are used on this plant. Absolutely gorgeous. Did you know that this herb, this plant, has a historical significance? That's right. Back in the day, you know, the Boston Harbor, the Tea Party, when the early American settlers dumped all of the tea into the Boston Harbor, there was no tea to drink, and that was before coffee time. So the Native Americans had this tea, Oswego tea, because it came from Oswego people in upstate New York. And this tea would resemble Earl Grey. It would have this mild little citrus aroma to it and a little spice to it. So this may be a beautiful plant, but it also a patriot. Bee balm has two very active ingredients, main ingredients, thymol and carbapenem. And because of these active ingredients, it's often used for many different uses. Wait until I start listing them. Okay. Antibacterial and antiviral. So always include it in cold, flu, influenza, tea combination, or any other remedies. Also, it's very active as an anti-spasmodic. So any kind of GI distress, you know, the bloating, the gassiness, the flatulence, or just stomach unease, constipation, or diarrhea. It's also used in a combination to relieve those spasmodic issues, okay? Thymol can be applied topically or used internally. And like I mentioned already, flowers, leaves, or stems are a go. They both can be used. They can be used fresh, dried, in tincture, in oxymels, and infusions, you name it, in so many different ways. Besides being antibacterial, antiviral, antispasmodic, it is also a natural expirant. So it's used in combination or even alone with mullein, because they both help to liquefy those respiratory secretions and allow your body to easier get rid of them, cough them up. So bronchitis, respiratory infections, all of that stuff. It often used in remedies against UTI. So you will see UTI preparations, and bee balm can be found in there as well. All right. It is natural diaphoretic. So during cold and flu, it can be added also because it helps to sweat and reduce the temperature. It is a mild sedative. So not to say that it's, oh my goodness, it's going to sedate you like kava kava, for example. No, it's very mild. It relaxes you. So it helps with sleep. It helps with mental well-being. It helps to kind of like reduce the stress amount. So, but it's a very gentle type of plant. It also has precautions. And one of the major precautions that it can stimulate menstrual flow. Therefore, it is not recommended during pregnancy, especially in the first trimester, simply because it's not safe. It can cause bleeding. So, but it has so many different uses. So the actions are fantastic, but we can use them in so many different ways. Okay, number one, as I mentioned, antibacterial, antiviral. So sore throats, respiratory, upper respiratory things going on, the cold, that nasty kind of flu that's lingering. This is very helpful to boost the immune system. But as far as antifungal, guess what? It can fight against candida. Candida is so difficult to fight with because it's just candida. It's yeast. A little tiny piece of it is left, and it's going to give it a good environment. It's just going to flourish again. So this is helpful to fight against candida. Bee balm is a fantastic herb. As an antispasmodic, yes, it can be used against, the GI colic, upset belly, because it can relieve those spasms in the abdomen. But it also can be helpful against menstrual cramps, against sore muscles. So after working in the garden all day and going to bed and my body's sore, this is a really good little helper to help to relieve those aches and pains and those spasms. Things that we can do to use this. Well, obviously we're going to be drying it. We're going to be drying flowers and teas, and I like to use these dehydrating trays to put in my dehydrating machine on the lowest possible setting. The lowest possible setting, because yes, we want everything to be nice and dry, including the stems. Okay, so it is wise to separate leaves and flowers away from stems and cut the stems separately on a different tray. Why? Because the stems will require more time, a longer time to dehydrate. See, very often we think that the plant is dry and ready for storage for the winter time. But however, if there's any moisture left in the stem and the stem was thicker, chances are the entire batch can go moldy, and that is very unfortunate. So these stems are going to be separated from the flowers, okay? And these stems have to be chopped up and dehydrated separately, simply because they need more time. Okay, we can make tea making this plant. We can make hot infusion, cold infusion, and both of those are fantastic. So a hot infusion is basically when you pour hot water, almost boiling water. You just took it off the stove, and you're boiling covering with boiling water, allowing those hot water to extract those medicinal properties into the water, and you let it steep, covered. Of course, you should always cover because you don't want anything to escape. And, you're allowing it anywhere from 20, 25 minutes, maybe half an hour, sometimes even a little longer if you want a stronger concentration. And then that hot infusion can be consumed up to 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening. And it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful remedy. But also there's a cold infusion, and cold infusion is fun because you can also use dried herb or fresh herb, it doesn't matter. But instead of boiling hot water, you use cold water. And I'm not talking about the ice cold water, I'm talking about room temperature. But then you put it in a glass container, cover it with cold water, put a cover on, and let it sit to do its thing low and slow for several hours. Sometimes I even put it in the fridge overnight. and then in the morning I can consume it, and it's going to be very mild, delicious, naturally sweetened by the herb itself. Cold infusion, and you can drink it for fun, or you can drink it medicinally. But anyway, cold infusion just takes several hours, at least 4 hours, but the longer the better. There's another way of using it. This bee balm can be used as a tincture. And for tincture, I like to use vodka. 100 proof vodka, the best. Even though 80 proof, if that's all you have. Because with vodka, 50% is water, 50% is alcohol. So it does both extractions. It will do water-based extraction and alcohol-based extraction. And then it is best to use a scale, and not because just to be more scientific, but because it's going to make a better product. And if you're using a fresh herb, fresh flowers, fresh leaves, whatever, fresh herb, it's best then to use a ratio of one part of plant to 2 parts of alcohol. And it can be done in grams or in ounces, whatever is more convenient to you. And if it seems like the plant material is above the alcohol, it is okay to use a wooden spoon or skewer and just push it down below. And then use some sort of a weight, a glass little plate or tiny little glass jar filled with water, something heavy, put it inside and then close the cover. That way you know that all of the plant material is going to be under the liquid at all times and nothing is going to get oxidized. A tincture requires dark place storage for at least 6 to 8 weeks. It is recommended to shake that extract, that tincture, every day for the first week. Turn it upside down a couple of times a day. But then after that, only once or twice a week is enough. At the end of 6 to 8 weeks, and I prefer 8 weeks, is the time for me to strain all these tinctures. You can use a cheesecloth or a press or something like that and squeeze all of that goodness out. And at that time, it has to be stored in a dark amber bottle. But the good thing about vodka doesn't go bad, so therefore these tinctures last a long, long time. Unlike the dried herb, the dried herb is only good for one season, only for 1 year. So I prefer not to store too much, because I know how much my family needs, and then after 1 year, I have to discard it. It's so bright out today. Okay, so also bee balm can be turned into inhalation solution. That's right. If you steep it in hot boiling water and then breathe over a bowl where this herb is being steeped, it releases those vapors that are good to help to reduce inflammation in the respiratory tract, reduce inflammation, and open up those airways. So it's a very good as an inhalation remedy as well. Did you know it can also be used in cooking? So I've never cooked with it, but I hear you can. It because of its spiciness, it can be used in adding to breads, into dough, or while cooking fish or oysters or scallops. So I know Native Americans have done that. So it can be used as a natural spice that you grow in your own backyard. The poultice. Yes, you can turn this into a poultice using a fresh plant material just like this. You rip off the plant, you chop it up very, very, very fine, and apply it to inflamed wound externally, or even to acne. This can be applied to acne as well to take care of that bacterial infection as a poultice externally. So this can be turned into a salve. And as I mentioned, bee balm means that you make a balm to apply to skin after bee stings. But first you need to infuse the oil. So bee balm can be infused in oil, then add a little bit of wax and propolis, and you can make a wonderful, wonderful salve to apply to skin to reduce that inflammation and pain and heal fast those bee stings. Tinctures are often used in small amounts, as you know. When we're talking about drinking a cup of tea, that's at least 8 ounces or more, right? But when we're talking about a tincture, tincture is an extract, so it means it's super concentrated because it was alcohol and water extraction, so it's very concentrated. So tincture is best to be used in drops or dropper fulls. So when you squeeze that little pipette at the top and it begins to fill up the dropper, it usually fills up about halfway up. So that's considered to be a dropper full. So I always recommend, if you're thinking of using tinctures, always start with slow, a drop or two, and see how you react, okay? Because when someone who has that kind of a stressful attack in their life and they need that carminative solution, they're looking for lemon balm and bee balm. So that can be used in tinctures. And then people can increase the amount they take anywhere up to a full dropper, even 2 full droppers at a time if they need it. And a tincture is mixed either in a tiny little bit of water, and taking it like a shot, or if you're brave enough, you can even put it straight under your tongue from the dropper and take it that way, because there are blood vessels under our tongue that begin to absorb this medicine, homemade medicine, right away. Okay, so I've mentioned many actions of this plant and many uses of this plant, and we talked about how we're going to be using it as a tea, as an infusion, as a salve. You can use it as for cooking, for inhalation, for poultice. It's a rich plant, and I am glad that I know this plant now and it grows in my backyard because it is a Native American plant. So I love this plant. It's absolutely gorgeous. So friends, we often rely on pharmaceutical medications from a pharmacy or by prescription, and there is a time and place for everything. So I'm not going to argue that, because there definitely a time and place. But we need to keep in mind that those synthetic lab-made medications have a laundry list of side effects. And besides side effects, they have addictive kind of things when you become dependent on those medications, and stopping them is not safe. So before you jump to any kind of a natural plant-based remedy, you know, you need to talk to your doctors or your providers, because it may not be safe for you to stop that medication. So don't let this be a prescriptive or diagnostic for you. Let this be an education for you and for fun, obviously. So please talk to your doctors first before taking something or switching to something else. You need to be safe and smart about it. All right, well, on this note, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not subscribed, I would really appreciate that you subscribe and leave a comment, because for some reason, YouTube doesn't promote those who don't have a lot of engagement. So I'm asking for engagement. I'm looking for your support. I work very hard to produce these videos, and I hope you enjoy them. So on this note, friends, I hope you are encouraged and try something new.